But before we begin the session, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you'll never miss any update from us.
Hello everyone and welcome to Intellipaat. In this video, I'll be talking about a cybersecurity concept called cross-site scripting. It is also known as XSS for short. Now let us have a look at the agenda for this video. Firstly, I'll be going through how it all started, that is the history of XSS. Followed by I'll be explaining what exactly is XSS, that is the logic behind XSS. Followed by some common concepts that you will have to learn in order to deep dive into the concepts of XSS. And then later I'll be listing out all the types of XSS out there and briefly explaining each one of them. And finally, we'll have a bonus section wherein I'll include a further reading and some materials that you can go through later. Alright, now that we have our agenda clear, let us move on with the session. How it all started. So let us go back to the beginning when the World Wide Web was introduced to the public in 1993. So the image you see here is the first web page. It was the principles of the first World Wide Web was introduced by a person called as Tim Lee-Berners, and it was introduced to the public in 1993. And this first web page had a HTML structure and hyperlinks to other pages, which was used by scientists and professors across the world to share information with each other. If the browser had to read information from a web server, all the information had to be included within the HTML tag. So some of you guys might already know what web development is and how to create HTML documents and include CSS and JavaScript as well. So I'll be just brushing up with the HTML structure. So whatever you want to fill inside the HTML document, you will have to add the content in between HTML tags. That is opening your angle brackets and then you will have to type in HTML and close the angular brackets. And then you also have your closing tag, which the only difference between the opening tag and the closing tag is you will have to add a forward slash in the closing tag. And apart from this, there are several other tags which you can see in this image below. For example, you have the h1 tag, you have the body tag, you have the head tag, you also have the paragraph tag, and many other tags which have functionalities of their own. And let's take the h1 tag for example. Tags like h1, so if you include any text or information inside the h1 tag, it says to the web browser that whatever text that comes in between the h1 tag must be formatted to the highest level of heading, that is the first level of heading. Alright, now let us go one level deeper. Now let's say, what if you have to include a lesser than symbol, that is an angle bracket, within our HTML document. So now if you just type in the symbol, that is the lesser than symbol, the browser will think that a new tag is opening and it is not closed. So this might result in errors in the web page. So when your web browser parses the HTML document, so it might cause an error if you just add a angle bracket. So a new keyword which is also known as escaping was introduced, and let's say you want to include a angle brackets inside a paragraph. So instead of just typing out the lesser than symbol, you will have to type this following sequence, which is ampersand LT followed by semicolon. So LT here stands for lesser than. And then you also have this escaping sequence for various other symbols as well. You also have it for greater than, you also have it for ampersand, copyright symbol and quotation mark symbol as well. Now by adding this feature that is called as escaping to your HTML document, you can include a lesser than symbol without messing up the code. And then fast forward then a few years later, when CSS and JavaScript were introduced, things became a little bit complicated. So CSS, as you guys know, that it is used to aesthetically improve the appearance of a web page. JavaScript is used to add a dynamic functionality to the website. Now, by using the script tag, you can use an entirely new language inside your HTML documents. This can be used to automatically resize your page contents according to the device or according to the form factor that the web page is being used on. It can also automatically save your content without having to explicitly save it every time. So you can do all kinds of functionalities with JavaScript. But as you guys know that JavaScript can be dangerous. It can do anything to the web page. This is a trade-off that we have to do if we have to utilize JavaScript in our HTML documents and come up with amazing features like this. People or usually hackers can write a functionality in JavaScript and include them within the script tag and make the browser send information like your cookie information or your session information, let's say information like your username and password to a third party before sending them to the, let's say, a banking website, and the users would never know that this has happened. So you could also log into a website pretending to be someone else and to do some bad things. Now that we have a clear understanding of the history of the HTML documents, about CSS, about JavaScript, and then how people started misusing JavaScript within the HTML documents. Now let us move on to what exactly is cross-site scripting. So XSS stands for cross-site scripting. This name was given by Microsoft, and the relevance of the name does not hold good here. It doesn't make complete sense, but what we can say here is that at least it is a characterization of the concept that we are trying to explain. So XSS is a process of injecting malicious script, that is JavaScript, into trusted websites so that the attacker can access important information like cookies, session tokens, etc. Hackers are always looking to undermine the security of the web. To this day, cross-site scripting is one of the most popular ways of bypassing the same origin policy, and it accounted for a majority of all security vulnerabilities not long ago. So if I'm right that back in 2010 or 2012, so about 86% of all this website cybersecurity vulnerabilities were due to cross-site scripting. So let us know that when does the cross-site scripting occur. So it occurs two ways mainly. So the first way is when data enters a web application through an untrusted source. It is most frequently through a web request that you send to a server. And then the second way is that the data is included in dynamic content that is sent to a web user without being validated for malicious content. So these are the two ways that cross-site scripting can occur. So the first one is web request, and the second one is data included in dynamic content. And the malicious content that is sent to the web browser often takes the form of a segment of JavaScript, that is JavaScript language included in the script tag. But it can also be HTML, it can also be Flash, it can also be any other type of code that the browser may execute. The variety of attacks based on XSS is almost limitless, but they commonly include transmitting private data like cookies and other session information. This will be sent to the attacker and then redirecting the victim to web content controlled by the attacker, or performing other malicious operations on the user's machine only under the disguise of the site, that is whatever website you want to visit. So it will just clone that website and it will be under the disguise so that you wouldn't know that it is a fake website. Alright, now let us move on to the next topic, which is some common concepts that you need to know before going further. So we have something called as same origin policy, or SOP. SOP is an important concept in web application security model, and under this policy, and before that I need to say one more thing, that there is no single same origin policy, that is Different websites follow a principle, they follow some guidelines which help them to come up with an SOP of their own. So you have SOPs that are followed by the different SOPs that are followed by different websites. But generally, you can say that SOP is an important concept in the web application security model. And under this policy, a web browser permits scripts contained in the first web page to access data in the second web page. But this can only be done if both web pages have the same origin. So the initial request that you send from your browser to the first domain, that is the first web server, it has to have the web request have to have same origin. And the next concept you have to learn is called as CORS, or cross origin resource sharing. A CORS is a mechanism to fight against cross-site scripting. So this mechanism sets up a layer of security in order for the browser to access resources from multiple domains. CORS is a browser mechanism, that is, it is a client-side software, or it is a mechanism which enables controlled access to resources located outside of a given domain. So it extends and adds flexibility to the SOP, that is the same origin policy. However, it also provides potential for cross-domain attacks. So if a website's CORS policy is very poorly configured, so it is vulnerable to the cross-site scripting attack. Now let us move on to the types of XSS. So you have three main types of cross-site scripting, and you also have variations of the three types. So let us move on to the first type, which is reflected XSS. It is also called as non-persistent because it does not persist in your web browser or the server. So it will just be reflected off of your client-side browser. So that is why it is called reflected. Reflected attacks are those where the injected script is reflected off the web server. So such as an error message or an alert message. It can also be a search result or any other response that includes some or all of the input sent to the server as part of the request. So reflected attacks are delivered to victims via another route, such as in an email message or in some website. When a user is tricked into clicking on this link, that is the malicious link, submitting a specifically crafted form, or even just browsing to a malicious site, the injected code travels to the vulnerable website, which reflects the attack back to the user's browser. So the browser then executes the code because it came from a trusted server. So the authority is allowed there because the web server doesn't know it is from a malicious third party website or a server. So the reflected XSS is also sometimes referred to as non-persistent or type 2 XSS. Now we have something called as stored XSS, or it is also known as persistent XSS. Stored attacks are those where the injected script is permanently stored on the target service, such as in a database, in a message forum. It can also be a visitor log, comment field, etc. The victim then retrieves the malicious script from the server when it requests the stored information. Stored XSS is also sometimes referred to as persistent or type 1 XSS. So the third type we have is the DOM based. So DOM here stands for Document Object Model. To explain DOM briefly, it is an application programming interface. It is an API for HTML and XML documents. So it acts as an API between XML and HTML documents. Now DOM-based XSS is an attack wherein the attack payload is executed as a result of modifying the DOM. It modifies the DOM environment in which the victim's browser is used by the original client-side script, so that the client-side code runs in an unexpected manner. That is, the page, the HTML response that you get itself does not change, but the client-side code contained in the page executes differently due to the malicious modifications that have occurred in the DOM environment. So this is in contrast to other XSS attacks, other attacks meaning the stored and reflected, wherein the attack payload is placed in the response page. And apart from this, we have variations, and the first type of variation is the self XSS. Self XSS is a form of XSS vulnerability that relies on social engineering in order to trick the victim into executing malicious JavaScript code in their browser. Although it is technically not a true cross-site scripting vulnerability, due to the fact that it relies on social engineering a user into executing code rather than a flaw in the affected website, allowing an attacker to do so, it still poses the same risk as a regular XSS vulnerability if properly executed. So self XSS is not a mistake of the website. That is, it's not a mistake of the developers and owners of the website. So it is done through social engineering. If you click on some malicious or some out of like odd looking links or odd looking buttons and you submit the form, so you will be in trouble. So it is not exactly XSS, but it can have the same effects as the normal XSS. So next variation we have is mutated XSS. So mutated XSS happens when the attacker injects something that is seemingly safe, but it is written and modified by the browser while parsing the markup. That is while decoding the HTML document. This makes it extremely hard to detect or sanitize within the website's application logic. So whenever you pass a mutated XSS script, it is like almost impossible to sanitize it. An example is that let's say you have a CSS file in your code base, that is in your source code, you have your CSS file, and to rebalance the unclosed quotation marks or even adding quotation marks to unquoted parameters on the font family in CSS. So this is an example of mutated XSS. So let us move on to the last section of this session. That is the bonus session. Here I'll be talking about some further reading, or I'll be linking you to a website where you can further check out what XSS is. Alright, now we have a open source website or a web application. It is called as DVWA. So it stands for Damn Vulnerable Web Application. It is a web application where you can test all the well-known security vulnerabilities legally, which you can't do, like you can't mess around in a real-world website. So you might get into trouble doing that. So if you want to test all of the security vulnerabilities, all of the cybersecurity vulnerabilities, including cross-site scripting, you can check out this web application, download it from GitHub, install it and check, and you can mess around in this website. As you can see in the web application, you have CSRF, you have brute force, you have command execution, you have file inclusion, you have SQL injections, and after scrolling down, you have XSS also. You can mess around with the reflected version, you can mess around with the stored version. And one more thing is that you have to install a XAMPP software, that is a XAMPP server, into your local machine, and then you can run this web application. So that is it from my side, guys. Thank you for watching till the end. Have a nice day.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cybersecurity by EICT Academy IIT Guwahati. You will get to learn the most important concepts such as ethical hacking, penetration testing, and network security in this course. You'll get to learn from IIT faculty and industry experts. Reach us out to know more.